We're here today with a special version of Mariano's Meetups. This is the online platform that we created months ago to entertain ourselves during the quarantine as we were staying safe, but it kept evolving and we're still doing classes and events. And we have a very, very, very special partnership with Pilot Light and their family meal program, which I'm gonna let Katie talk about in just 1 second from Pilot Light. But we're super excited to have Jason Hammel with us today too. And we're really excited to learn about this pasta and learn more about Pilot Light throughout the night. I'm gonna go ahead and let Katie talk about our special partnership. And then Jason, we're gonna let you take it away in that beautiful kitchen.
Awesome, thanks Amanda. I'm Pilot Light's Director of Education, and Pilot Light is a nonprofit based in Chicago. And we partner with chefs and teachers to bring food education into classrooms. Today we are excited and also very appreciative to be partnering with Mariano's to bring you today's family meal and recipe demonstration. Our family meal program is designed for remote learning, and it airs on social media every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. Central. And it includes a recipe demo like you'll see today, and then also a family lesson plan that coordinates with the video. We encourage you to check out our Food Education Center, which is a free online digital hub of all of our resources, like our teacher lessons, our family resources and lessons, and other food education resources after the video today. And today we're excited to have Chef Jason Hammel, who's also one of our co-founders, here to show us how to make orecchiette, trying to say that right, with asparagus.
Good. That was really good.
Sweet onion, pistachio, and bacon. I won't be cooking alongside tonight, but I made it several weeks ago and it's delicious. So I'm really excited to see Chef Hammel make it. And the pasta dish that Chef Hammel's going to make actually has a story behind it, which we'll hear more about in a moment. And after the demo, we encourage you again to visit our Food Education Center, where you'll see a family lesson plan that has a Common Core-based writing lesson that will have students writing a story about their favorite pasta. So a lesson to go along with what we'll hear about today. So with that, I'll pass it over to Chef Jason Hammel.
Okay, thank you. I think an important thing to talk about today is to connect the cooking that we're doing to the mission of Pilot Light. Pilot Light is a group that we started 10 years ago. And what we do is we work with teachers all across Chicago, and now we're expanding beyond Chicago, to use food to help kids understand the world. So whether it's issues of expression when they're writing or thinking about how to express themselves, or whether it's science or math, we use food to help them better understand those important things that they're trying to learn. And what we found is that food connects them and empowers them, and it allows them to share and experience learning in a new way. So that is what we do in Pilot Light. And please visit our website, because we do many different things, and it's a complex organization. That said, it all comes down to being really interested in what food has to teach us. So today we're going to make a pasta, and we're going to take a look at the process. I don't know if anyone is cooking along. Sometimes I go too fast. So if anybody is, let me know. I did this recipe because I wanted to highlight a classroom experience we have called Noodles to Neighborhoods, which looks at all the amazing neighborhoods in Chicago and connects them and their histories and their identities through noodles, whether it's pierogies on the north side, or alkaline noodles in Chinatown, or any of the many other types of noodles in the city. And we really look at how food migrates and travels and informs people's histories. And what's great is that almost everybody has a noodle story, a noodle recipe, a noodle thing that they can share. And this is a recipe that I came up with. And remember, the first date for this Zoom meeting was in the spring, and asparagus had just popped up from the ground. So now we are in midsummer, We are going to talk about some substitutions, but we definitely have some great asparagus to work with here. I want to show you how to do it. So let's get started. I'm going to switch to Leah's going to take over, and we're going to start working on the pasta. Let me know if you can't see or hear something, and we'll adjust the audio, the audio visual. So we're going to switch to this camera. You have to switch to the, 1 second.
It's not unmuted because that was.
Can you guys unmute? Oh, there we go. Let's see. All right, so you can see there. So orecchiette is a pasta that's associated with the southern end of the Italian peninsula, and Puglia especially. But the reason I chose it is it's because it's a very simple flour and water pasta. And it made me think a lot about the quarantine and how eggs were really kind of a big commodity for us. We would always be like kind of looking at how many eggs we had each day and like, can we make an omelet? No, we want to save our eggs. So it made me think about using less and, in times of when supply was not always available. And egg-based pastas, noodles like a ravioli or another softer noodle are made with eggs and flour, and they're typically were understood to be for wealthier families in the North. In Southern Italian tradition, there's a lot of water and flour pastas. And then in fact, all dried pasta, like their spaghetti and penne rigate or those type, are also made just with flour and water. The other thing is that this is a great thing you can do with kids in school because there are no perishable ingredients. So you can easily, and it's inexpensive, you can easily have an experience where you bring in a bag of flour and some water and get kids' hands dirty. In fact, when I was making my first batch of orecchiette earlier, my son was helping me mix it, and it reminded him of his nursery school pre-kindergarten years when they would make these sort of water and flour biscuits that they would bring home, and they thought were really delicious for the parents when in fact we had to choke them down with something, So we're going to start with semolina and water. So this semolina, hopefully everyone can find it. This is Durham wheat semolina, which is a hard winter wheat. It's a hard wheat. It's going to make a very firm and toothsome pasta. There are many different types of Italian flours, and the terminology surrounding them is incredibly complicated. And you don't always know what you're going to get. So it's okay. You work with what you have. And one of the things that I wanted to show you was that you have to be really flexible when you're making pasta. So I gave you a ratio, and I did it by weight because that's how I always understand things. But really, you could just put some flour in a bowl and put some water until it comes together. It's as simple as that, and that's what is traditionally done. I would really recommend the cookbook and website Pasta Grannies if you're interested in this kind of stuff. It's absolutely 100% the most fascinating thing. It's a project of a British journalist who started looking at the work of the octogenarian, pasta makers of Italy, the grandmothers who were making pasta in their homes, and a lot of recipes and processes that were going to leave if not captured. They have a cookbook, but it's really the videos you need to see. And as you'll see in a minute, like I'm okay at making orecchiette, but the women that are on Pasta Grannies are amazing at it, and it's insane. So we're going to start by measuring out and making our dough. So we're going to use a scale, and again, like I said, don't worry if you don't have a scale. I am going to use the bowl from the KitchenAid just because it still has some flour in it. I don't feel like making a mess. So we're going to do 200 grams of semolina and 90 grams of hot water. So the important point here is that I did this morning, and when I have done it, the last time I did it was in, I can't remember when I made pasta for us. It was probably like April. It was very, it was a different kind of day, and the ratio worked perfectly, which was 90 grams to 200 grams. And today when I made it, I needed a little more water because of just the temperature and whatever's going on. So I'm gonna get some hot water. The temperature just needs to be warm. I'm gonna zero out the scale and go with 90 grams. And then we're going to mix. So Cass, my son, did this morning, and he used his hands, which we're going to do in a second. But just, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot a pinch of salt. So you're going to incorporate this, and then this is where, you know, I really wanted to do a homemade pasta for you all just to show you some fun things that you can talk about and some ideas like that we would work with on Pilot. But this is also something that's going to take a little more time than we have right in this session. So I don't know if the people who are doing it at home have already dried pasta or what you're using. But so here, can you zoom looking at this? So it's very crumbly and does not look anything like a dough. So this is where you need those like Nona arms to like go in and squeeze it together, because it is a very low hydration dough. There's very small amount of water in it. And so you need to like really squeeze it and work it. And now here, Leah's an amazing camera person. Zoom in there. You see it's starting to form a ball. So we're going to keep doing that. Until we get a nice firm ball. So you can see this here, right? But look in the bowl, there's still some unincorporated flour and it's pretty dry. So I'm gonna break it up, add a little bit more water. This is the beauty of cooking. I started you out using a gram recipe, and now I'm telling you just to work with it until it feels right. Okay, so we're gonna pull this ball of dough out. And this ball of dough is going to rest. And then we're gonna knead it, and then it's gonna rest some more. So typically you would let this rest for, covered in plastic wrap, for at least 10 or 15 minutes, and then you would knead it until it gets elastic, and then you would allow it to rest again for 10 or 15 minutes. And what we're gonna have is magic of cinema. Later, I'm gonna have to make all this pasta, so I can feed my family. So can you see how elastic and lovely this is? It's got a pale, almost, it's a clay-like feeling. So this is the finished orecchiette dough. I made this about 45 minutes ago. It's been sitting. So I'm gonna get a board and show you how to actually roll the pasta.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Ask away.
So pliable because it just rested, or how?
Exactly.
Really?
So it's pliable because it hydrated over time and rested, and it was worked when I needed it, and then it rested afterwards. So you can see this. I don't know if you can see how crumbly this is. See how like unincorporated and crumbly this dough is?
Yes.
Right. Now this is the same dough after having rested, worked, rested.
Wow, that's really incredible. The other one looks like a biscuit or like a crumbly, really crumbly dough.
This looks like the biscuit. I literally think they would take, in my son's kindergarten class, I think they would take this and put it in a toaster oven and bring it home for us to eat.
And that sounds pretty good.
Oh, but it wasn't. Actually, a funny story is that years later, it came to light that we actually did not think those things were tasty. And it was like kind of one of those like moments in a kid's life where they're like, oh my God, I thought that, my worldview has changed completely. All right, so so basically, you pinch off a little piece, and we're gonna actually get a little bit of water. That's helpful. And so when I'm doing this in the restaurant, I often have like a little spray bottle of water, and just to get your hands wet. And we're gonna start rolling it out. Just want a little tube. And then I'm gonna use a knife. This is the part that's going to kind of frustrate everybody. But I'm gonna use a knife, pinch off a tiny piece. Now, can you zoom in like here? Okay. So I'm gonna pinch off a piece. So it looks like that. I'm gonna press with my thumb, just gently, indentation. Can you lose it? Got it. And then, I've watched this video on pasta grannies a gazillion times. So you flatten that out, and then using 2 fingers, you press and drag toward you, flip, invert, and you have like a little ear. Let's do it again.
Katie, did yours look like this when you were doing it?
I used pre-made pasta. I cheated.
Okay. I definitely want to try this. This actually looks really fun.
It's fun, and like it's something that you can get kids to do. Yours are gonna, it takes a lot of practice. Press, drag, flip. So that looks like, orecchiette means little ear. So it's supposed to have that kind of like, can you zoom in a little bit, Leah? Like has like an edge that's kind of like the outer, like the earlobe. And then the inner part that's a little thinner and ruffly. So that's kind of the interesting part. So over here, I made some just a little earlier, and this is what mine look like.
Oh my God, they look so great.
So that's when I'm not like pressured and on Zoom to do it. But yeah, so here's my little batch. I made these and they've been drying out just on a dish towel, very, very Italian, right? To keep
They
it
look so great. I think pasta can be, Sarah just wrote a really good comment. I think that pasta can be really intimidating if you don't make it because you think you need the machine and like you have to like, it seems very like intimidating, but especially if you might need like machinery. But that looks, really needs a butter knife and a really nice
yeah. If you look online at the ladies on Pasta Grannies making this pasta, they would make about 12 to 15 in the time that I did that.
Oh my God, that's what I'm watching all night.
You got to watch it. It's fascinating, and you go down that rabbit hole of watching all those videos, and it's amazing. It's actually, for years I've been looking at YouTube videos of Italian, grandsons filming their grandmothers making pasta because it was almost like a genre. And now Pasta Granny's picked that up and is doing this work. And it's important work because a lot of these practices and procedures will be lost if it's not. And also, I mean, this is something that, so like think about how fun it is. Like this is the dough, it's water and flour, and there's nothing else in it. And kids could make, I don't know, weirdo twisty things, or they could flatten it out and make, you know, a shape and punch the shape out. You can flatten it out and then like draw on it or something. There's a million things that you can do to have fun. And there's also thousands of pasta shapes, right? So this is the kind of shape that is very chewy. It's not, it's chewy and sort of hearty and will really fill you up. And it's very peasant food. I mean, again, it's water and flour only. And it's not like the sort of refined, like egg rich, like agnolotti or tortellini. It's a very different kind of pasta. But I just wanted to show you how like, how fun it can be, and like they don't need to be pretty, and like even, I mean, just having that kind of like, I don't know, hands-on approach, you know, once again, push, spin, flip, and then pull it out around your thumb.
Luckily, this class is recorded, so we can all go back and watch the technique, and then also Pasta Grannies. But this, that's really great. I can't wait to try it.
Okay, so let's move on to the other fun stuff. Okay, so what we're doing today is making an olive oil based pasta. So we're gonna do what's called a sofrito. And a sofrito is the sort of like flavor underneath something. It's literally sotto, which means under, below, and frito, which is like fried. And that really refers to the onions. So like if you think about a step in recipe where there's onions sweated in olive oil, it's like the first step to a gazillion recipes. This is the basis for like a great flavor. And so in the restaurant, we actually make a bunch of sofritos and then use them in our cooking all the time. So I'm gonna show you a little bit about what I think about when I'm trying to build flavor in a dish. So this dish is pretty simple. It's gonna be olive oil, onions, asparagus, pancetta or bacon. Mariano was nice enough to send me some nice pancetta, so we've got that. And pistachio. Pistachio might be like the sort of like unusual ingredient here, but pistachio and asparagus go well together in my head. And the greenness of that is, you know, really bright and makes me think of spring. We have some parsley, oregano, and oregano is like, we're gonna use just like in a little touch, and some lemon. We're just gonna get started. So the process here is going to be first to get the asparagus par cooked, then to cook the bacon or the pancetta, to remove it, and then sweat the sofrito, and then return everything together and cook the pasta and drop it into the sofrito. And the sofrito will be the sauce for the pasta. Hopefully that makes sense. And please stop me if you have any questions. I can't see the chat or anything. So we're gonna start with the asparagus. So I actually left the asparagus in the refrigerator. I'll be right back. So I taught Cass, my son, this morning. Hey Cass, are you down here? You wanna come and do this? No, I can't actually. So he'll be over in a second, but I taught him how, you know, the asparagus will break where you want it when you clean it. So it's the bottom section of the asparagus that you don't wanna deal with. And if you're going to cook asparagus, why bother wasting the energy to cook it whole? Clean it first. So we're just gonna do that really quickly. And then these asparagus are very, they're very tender and delicate and thin. Some of the larger ones, you'll see these pieces here. You might want to cut those off if they're these here if they are too tough, but these are tender, so they're leaving them on is totally fine. So we're gonna blanch, and we're blanching in this pot of boiling water right here. Let's stop and dry. All right, so it's hard for me because my stove at home is the opposite of the stove at the restaurant. I'm always in a smell which one is which. Okay, so this is our blanching pot here. We're gonna add some salt, liberally keep the boiling point, actually changes the boiling point of the water, and it helps maintain the water's temperature as you put the cold asparagus in. And you're maintaining temperature because you want to cook asparagus as quickly as possible. That's, that's what we need to do. So that's actually like, think about pilot light. We could talk about adding salt to water and in a science class. And we can look at changing the temperature of water in boiling water. We can also look at it as they use salt on the streets in the city of Chicago. And we've done little experiments like that. We've also looked at temperature and how it affects different foods, which has been really fascinating. We did through dehydration for preservation, or even like with eggs, like looking at how the proteins in the eggs change with different temperatures. So like that's a lesson that we might do in school. I'm gonna grab some ice, I'll be right back. So blanching is the act of cooking quickly. So you want this to maintain a boil. A key thing is making sure you have enough water. The asparagus is cold and the water is hot. And as soon as you put the asparagus in there, the water temperature is going to drop. So you want to have enough water that the impact of the cold asparagus is not, there's not too much of a temperature drop. So it's just going to take another 5 seconds or so. And we're going to pull this out and plunge it immediately into the shocking water bath. So our asparagus is here. And oh, by the way, I think on the recipe I said that we were going to cut it into 1/2-inch lengths. I think instead we're going to slice it. I changed my mind after I looked at that recipe again today. I was like, I want to make things a little bit more delicate and just coating the pasta rather than having this like chunky thing going on. So I'm going to cut this, but before I do, let's get the bacon going so we don't waste any time. Okay. So pancetta is cured pork belly that is not smoked. So it's basically unsmoked bacon. And it's a little fatty, but you know what, to be honest, we're looking for a little bit of fat right now. So we want to render this out in a little bit of olive oil to perfume the olive oil and to pull some of the this flavored cured pork fat out of the pancetta. So we're going to do that slowly. And while we're doing that, we're going to come back to the cutting board and get our onions and our asparagus cut. Let's do the asparagus first. So you can line them up. Again, for small children in pilot-like classes, geometry can be taught with food, which is a nice thing to do. So we're rendering out this now.
Jason, what level of heat do you have on the pancetta?
Okay, so it's pretty low, and I'm about to make this joke that I've told a couple of times with to my mom. But what I often do is this on this stove. So you want to come over? That's my move.
Because you burn it. I mean, I feel like that's the kind of thing if I'm not paying attention in 1 minute, it's like they're all up in flames.
Yeah, so that is the kind of thing. You got to listen to it. I have my ear on the stove in the back there. I'm listening, but you're right. And like a lot of stoves, frankly, like they're not going low enough in terms of their simmer. I definitely was going to do this when we got to the onion stage because I want to sweat the onions without burning them. So I do this all the time because the stove is hot. I mean, the stove is almost hotter than my stove at work. And it just doesn't get down low enough. And sometimes the only burner that's like the simmer burner is the one way in the back and you don't want to use it or whatever. So that's my move. And one time I was doing a cooking demo and I was like, this is my little hack that I do at home. I put 2 grates on top of each other and it creates a little distance between the pan and the heat. And someone in the class raised their hand and said, where do I buy that hack? And that was pretty funny. I'm like, you can't buy a hack. It's just something you do. All right, so we got all our little nubbins of asparagus that are cooked, ready to go. I have some water going here for the pasta, but I don't want it to cook out too much. So if you were here and you could smell this, you're gonna smell the really like sweet, like fragrant, little bit of black pepper and stuff in the pancetta and the cure, because that's how they cure this meat. And you'll see also that some fat is pulling out, especially. You can see like some of these pieces are starting to get a little translucent, like that one. So this is nice temperature, a little bit of sizzle, but no, it's not like frying. Low and slow. So while that's happening, we're going to get, we're gonna pull it out, keep the fat, and then add the onion. So we need to cut an onion. So I already have some here, but I'll do one more.
It's always so nice to watch a professional cut something because it looks always so meticulous and perfect.
How am I doing?
Great.
See the other side. Yeah. She'll come around.
I really love the pancetta tip because I feel like with anything, if you're toasting breadcrumbs or like something, I feel like I always turn my back and then boom.
They're done. Yeah. All right, so that's a little bit of onion. We're gonna dump in this and the rest. We don't need all of this. This onion was rather large, so we don't need it all. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this pancetta out. And maintain all the fat. So slide the spin. And if a couple pieces stay in there, no big deal. So it's the flavor in this pan that's like really what you want to keep. And we go with onions.
Oh, that sounds good.
Okay, so spread them out. Get them all in there. Now, nobody get mad at me, but like the Italian cooking, there's a lot of olive oil. It's just how it's gonna be. So you coat this with the pancetta fat, and then we're gonna add some more olive oil so that the sofrito can have a nice base. And we may actually add some more later, just more in you. So this needs to cook. You can change how much onion you put in, it's up to you. But we're gonna start to flavor this sofrito with the #1 ingredient in the world, best thing ever, anchovy. So I like to add anchovy in early and let it disappear. So what I mean by that is, in a sofrito like this, we're gonna cook this for easily. I mean, I would probably cook this at home if I was doing it for dinner, at least a half an hour, but because we're pressed for time, we're gonna pick it up a little bit faster. So that this anchovy will melt, it will dissolve. You will not see it. I cut it up small to begin with, and then the fat is just gonna break it down, and it's gonna just give this like umami quality, like a good deep warmth to whatever you're cooking. It's not gonna be fishy. It's not gonna be too funky. It's just gonna be there underneath everything as a foundational element. If I could, I would put anchovy in almost everything. It's just like, it gives, anything that's cooked like this, it gives this warmth, it gives this, again, this sort of like depth of flavor that you just can't get with anything else. And that's why we use fish sauce a lot. Like, and I'm talking about in tiny amounts. Fish sauce is a really amazing product, and many cultures have different types of fish sauce. Italians have a great history with fish sauce, anchovy sauce called colatura or garum that comes from a Roman tradition. And in fact, my son was doing a project on Pompeii, and it ended up turning, we ended up doing, looking at drawings of fish sauce vessels from the Pompeii era. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things that you can learn about with even something as sort of like ew, gross as anchovies. And it's these are the kind of things that you could do in a classroom with kids. You can research the, this little fish. Like, there's a lot of cultural products that were developed or over the course of centuries using this tiny little fish. Economies were transformed in some respects from that, and you look at fishing history and the urns that were used in Roman times and to today, and like how traditional Thai, Japanese fish sauces are made. I mean, just you could go on and on. Anyways, a little bit goes a long way. This was a single, pretty fat fillet that I chopped up, and it's melting. So we're also going to add a little bit of, where'd it go? Red pepper flake, like the kind you put on pizza. You can use Calabrian chili or whatever you want. Again, small amounts.
Jason, someone asked if you could indeed use fish sauce instead of anchovies in this dish.
You could. And the tricky part is fish sauce is liquid, and it would evaporate out of this pretty quickly and get intense. I like what anchovy does in the oil, because it breaks down and it flavors the oil, and the oil is the sauce that you're coating the pasta with. So yes, you could use fish sauce. What you would do is put it in way later in the recipe.
Okay.
So it didn't all cook out, and you would just use a drop. Again, you might find that it doesn't give you the same qualities of simmering in the oil and breaking down.
And everyone's asking about your olive oil. It looks so beautiful.
So we have a whole bunch of different olive oil. This one happens to be one from my personal stash. We also, that I took from Lula, but we also have some Colavita in the house as well. We use different kinds, some for cooking, some for sauteing, but this one is, if anybody wants to know.
Beautiful. We want to know.
Yeah.
It looks really pretty.
It is a nice bottle. Okay, so we're gonna let this keep going. Are there any other questions out there while this is cooking?
We had the olive oil question. We had the fish sauce question. Everyone thinks it sounds delicious. Mary loves the tip about adding salt water to maintain the temperature. And that's something you can do when you're cooking pasta too, right? Like it's...
Yes, yeah. I mean, the pasta is more about the flavor than the temperature of the water because the pasta isn't cold and you're not trying to cook something real quick. But the salt in the water is important. It's interesting though, like I recently did another cooking class with a group of kids in a program that Rick Bayless runs, and they're a group of kids that were, they're at risk. They're in really tough circumstances. There were a couple of kids there that were homeless, and it was interesting for me because I often say like, make your pasta water taste like the sea. That's like a very common expression, and it's beautiful and poetic, and it makes you feel deep as a cook to say something like that. But and I've said it 1,000 times, and I always taste my pasta water. I make sure that it tastes well seasoned, like almost like salt water. But as soon as I said that, I realized I was talking to a group of people that had never been to the sea, and it was a powerful moment for me because it made me realize that and when you're teaching about cooking, you are telling stories, and the stories presume experiences. And one of the important things with Highlight is using the connectivity between kids to share their stories out and not to have assumptions about about anything, and
right.
to have them share and then and learn about each other. And we think that there's a lot of power in the social emotional learning that comes from sharing food stories like that. And in that moment, I was able to say well, hey, I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm pretty close. I mean, I'm very, very familiar with the taste of salt water from getting knocked on my head on the beach by a wave or whatever. But the kids that I'm talking to are in inner city Chicago, and never that. So it was fascinating, and I think that's an important aspect of recognizing what your story is, sharing it, and then being there to listen to other people's stories. Let's go back to the pasta and check out what's going on there. I'm starting to get the rest of my stuff ready here. Mariano's is awesome and sent me a really nice chunk of Parmigiano Reggiano. I've got the asparagus, pistachios that we're gonna put in. So these are unsalted pistachios, although the salted roasted ones, that would be a nice thing to add as well. It's really, we just have to adjust the salt at the end of the recipe. Some parsley, oregano, and then lemons. So I tend to, this is a restaurant trick. We cut the lemon. Well, my son ate part of this lemon today for I don't know what he was thinking, but for breakfast. But if you can picture the lemon, I cut it in ways that would allow you to squeeze it without, I pulled the seeds out, and without having to use a lemon squeezer or anything, or a strainer. We call these speed lemons in restaurant life because we have buckets of them and just grab one and use it. It's called
I'm so excited to do that too. I've never seen that. That's amazing.
a total restaurant. All right, so this is starting to get translucent, but we really need to let it go even further. Let me get that out of the way. Let me get this other water out of the way. or is being stubborn, of course, on camera. So the smell you're getting right now is like perfumey and really lovely. So I can't stress enough, like, I know this sounds silly, but this is what makes stuff taste good, this process. So whether you're doing this for tomato sauce or a soup or, you know, I don't know, even like a roast, you know, something that you're going to use on roasted fish or something like that. The process of taking time with this and really letting the flavors meld and smelling, and then deciding if you want to add a little bit of something, this is the important process. So when I cook at home, often I start here and I might add things like capers chopped up into this part right now. I mean, let's just think about while this is cooking, we can have fun with this. Let's see. We definitely could add some toasted fennel. That might be really lovely. We could do, maybe if we were making, I don't know, think about like a curry and you're working on this part of the recipe, you might have like a stalk of lemongrass in there and some ginger and garlic, and let the onions go. What's that?
I was going to ask, don't you normally call this low and slow?
Low and slow, yeah. If you were doing trying to think of some other kinds of sofrito, sometimes we add a tomato product into this. In some recipes, like maybe a tomato paste can be added straight into this oil and allowed to meld and move away, sort of break down. But it needs to take a little while. It's actually getting a little hot even right now. And you'll see that some of these onions are starting to get translucent, but still we have a lot of like undercooked ones. This really needs to keep going. So we're close though, and for sake of not keeping here all day, we're going to speed it up a little bit.
You don't want to brown those. You're not.
No color, zero color. You got to keep it.
I'm going to make a pasta and I'm going to do that. Jason.
Yeah. So I mean, seriously, like no color at all, as slow as possible, and just let it take its time. Let the anchovy just dissolve so much that you can barely see it. Sometimes I'll add garlic in at a certain step toward the end, or I've done this with like a shrimp pasta, etc. Those kind of things. All right, so let's keep going. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna finish this off. So I'm gonna add the pancetta back in. I would probably let this go for a little longer, just FYI. I'm gonna add the pancetta back in. And I'm gonna add some of the nuts. I know that sounds weird, but stay with me. Half of them. And we'll let it come back up to temperature. And then we're gonna add a little bit of white wine. So what's happening now is that we're reincorporating the pancetta into the olive oil mixture. The olive oil on the onions and the anchovy have melded together to form like a really flavorful base. And then the pistachios are giving it that like sort of surprising quality. And also the pistachios are breaking down into the oil as well and giving it another flavor. It's all about transferring the flavors and the ingredients into the oil, the olive oil, which is going to coat your pasta. So it's actually time that we can cook the pasta itself. So we're gonna get ready to do that.
Jason, Jacqueline would like to know, she says she thought sofrito was onions, carrots, and celery. Is sofrito just onions and whatever you want?
So there are a couple of sofritos out there. There's actually a very traditional Puerto Rican condiment that's called sofrito that is completely different. The Italian sofrito is from Marcella Hassan is the beginning section of the recipe, no matter what it is, and it really refers to onions. I think that there's another dish or two that's called Sofrito that has some other ingredients. Maybe after this I'll have to ask my mom about that, because I remember one that is that involves some offal, I think, some like intestines or something, some kind of intense Neapolitan dish. But let's leave that for the Q&A when we get there.
Okay.
So I'm going to test just one of these noodles just to see how they're looking. Shout out to Leah for the camera work.
I know Leah's doing a great job. You could come help us if you're ever interested.
She's sweating it though, because it's like you gotta stand over the boiling water.
I know. She's doing really great. It gives us a good like bird's eye view into
A very good perspective. Okay. So you can see that was like a minute, right? I'm just trying to figure out, this pasta was only made a few, not that long ago, so it's really not gonna take that long to cook. I think it's gonna take about 3 or 4 minutes. This one's still a little al dente. So cooking pasta, just to have, I think a lot of people are probably gonna use a store-bought pasta for this. The instructions on pasta are usually pretty good, but they're often, like you might wanna pull it ahead of time. The reason I'm saying that is because think about what you're going to do with the pasta once you get it out of the water. How long it's going to take you to get it to the table, and it's going to continue to cook a little bit. In this case, I also don't like to cook pasta and then dump the water out into the sink. It's not my move. The reason is the pasta water itself is part of the recipe, and you'll see why in a second. Okay? So what I usually do is, well, in a restaurant you have like this big thing of water and these baskets, and you cook. And here, we're gonna do that with this little strainer. So let's go back to finish the Sofrito and the sauce with the pasta by, we're good where we're at. We're going to add the asparagus and turn off the heat. Just gonna let that, the asparagus is cooked already, so just gonna let that hang out there. And you know what? It's gonna need just a tiny bit more olive oil. We might even put more in a minute. But you can see where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to a place where that's gonna be able to coat the pasta that we have. Okay. Let's go in. So you see, you can get this Sofrito, the pasta done ahead of time, and just don't put the asparagus in until you're ready to go. And this could be done, an hour ahead, and there'd be no problem keeping that. Let's get this. Okay, so that's going to cook for a couple minutes. I'm going to move this off the double burner and get ready to meld this together. I don't know if anybody on the call has a 13-year-old, but our 13-year-old right now is just calling out like, "Mom, Dad," like.
We have, oh wow, yeah, we have a 16 and 18, but they don't talk to us really.
Yeah. Well, we're waiting for that.
They'll arrive in the dinner.
That's when you go tell your sister we're on a call with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on a Zoom call. I'm really busy right now.
She's elected me. Okay.
Just gonna have to wait for a second.
We're going out.
colors door sometimes gets stuck. Okay, so we've got this going, and I let it come back to temperature, and we're waiting for this pasta to finish cooking. So we're gonna finish it here, add the herbs, lemon, salt, and we're gonna taste it. So all that happens once the pasta is out.
I'm gonna try to cut this off this so I can help her.
Okay.
Or else you're
All
gonna
right.
learn.
Can you? How's this? Can everybody see me still?
Yeah.
Okay. One-handed wonder here.
Team drama. It's like my life.
Right? Kid drama locked in the room, and for some reason the door handle's broken.
That's why God invented wine.
Okay, so I'm gonna taste one of these noodles. We're good.
That really was just like 3 to 4 minutes, maybe. I mean, that was quick.
Completely 100% dependent on how long they dried out, when you get done, and whether or not, you know, it's moist in the air. All right, so here's a fun trick. I'm going to mix this pasta in, and turn the heat off. So if you look at the water in the pasta pot, can you see that? It's nice and you can tell it's a little bit cloudy. I'm going to take this water and just splash it in there. One splash, I'm going to do 2 splashes. Yeah, Leah's back. All right.
Okay, so you put the orecchiette in the pan that you cooked everything in.
I put 2 ladlefuls of pasta water in with this pasta, and now we're doing what I would call melding. So we're just getting all the flavors to come together, turned up the heat a little bit, and the water from the pasta pot is combining with the olive oil. And it's emulsifying together. Okay, so can you kind of see how it's making a sauce?
I mean, that looks unbelievable.
Okay, so now the starch and the water, the olive oil all comes together, and turn it off. And now we need to do some fun stuff. So I'm going to take our parsley. Parsley always goes in at the end. Some oregano. Now the oregano is whole leaves, see? And what I'm going to do is kind of like take it on my hands and just kind of rip and break it and let it fall in, all rustic. But the sort of work that I'm doing with this in my hands is pulling out some of the fragrant oils in the oregano. So that goes in at the last minute. And now a little bit of lemon.
Speed lemon, I love it.
Lemon, a little bit of salt, and then a tiny bit. And what we're gonna do is, now remember the pancetta is a little salty, there was salt water in this pasta, so you don't wanna over salt. What you do is you get it going like this. Now I'm gonna taste it. Okay, so that's tasty. So salting is really an important step. Like, I mean, I've done it a gazillion times. I know how much to put in. We use a kosher salt. I use the same brand every time because I know how it feels in my fingers. And what you want to do is get the salt level right, but just under where you are, right where you're underrated. That's my dog.
It's a teenage dog now.
Yeah. And so salt incrementally. Taste it without the salt, add a little bit. Taste it. You have to make enough to be able to taste this many times. Add it again, taste it again. Don't just start throwing stuff into the pan. You have to taste it as you go. Otherwise, you are going to make a mistake and get something salty. So we're going to add this to our pan here. This is just like a serving vessel that I pulled out before. Eat this now. Didn't even think about it without the fact that we were actually making food.
Looks so colorful and beautiful, especially in that bowl. It's like perfect.
So, all this oil and stuff needs to come out into the pan. And then we're going to add some more parsley on top, and then we're gonna do some nice Parmesan. So we have some options here. This is a microplane. This is also a microplane. I really like this one. You don't see this one this often, but this one does this little like wispy shapes. Kind of fun, right?
Oh wow, that looks really, it just looks beautiful. When we're allowed to have dinner parties again, that's, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to make, but it's something that looks really beautiful.
I mean, honestly, it would be pretty easy to make if you didn't make pasta. So there's absolutely nothing against store-bought pasta. Store-bought pasta is a really good thing. So buy a great pasta that you like, and this would be really good with a rigatoni or something hearty like that. And I mean, but you can still make a nice spaghetti of this as well. So anyways, this is the orecchiette with pancetta, asparagus, and there you have it. Yeah, then we don't like that. What's that?
That's a stunner. It looks beautiful.
Cool. So what should we talk about?
All right, so we have a few questions. Well, you already answered one. If that, you know what, I think what's great about this sauce, and Jamie asked a question, if you could cook the sauce, I was taking notes, by the way, the whole time. I never do that, Jason. Can you make the sauce in advance? And then, yes, you can, except don't add the asparagus, is what you would do.
So the asparagus is going to overcook if it sits there for too long.
Okay.
So cooking the asparagus, I mean, you could have actually made something like this and then added the asparagus in raw and kind of cooked it in the oil. But I find that you want a lot of control with asparagus because there's nothing worse than mushy asparagus. Right? So I like the idea of like blanching and shocking the asparagus, getting it to like a nice, like, tender but firm, like snappiness, and then adding it in right at the last minute. But the sofrito, you could get that going anytime. You could actually make it a day in advance, cool it down, put it in the fridge, come back and reheat it, toss in your asparagus and your herbs, and be good to go. So like the things at the end need to happen at the end for a reason. Right. But you can get that. Then the beginning part, which is where all the flavor is, could be done anytime. And like we're talking about some substitutes. So I thought something that'd be fun would be for us to go to my fridge and look for some substitutes.
I think that sounds really cool.
Sounds good, right? Leah's looking at me like I'm crazy, but the fridge is cool.
We just want to see your fridge. This is like a treat, everybody. We get to go and oh my God, look at that beautiful watermelon.
Oh,
so do you guys keep your kitchen counter so clean and everything all the time?
All the time, yeah, every day. So what do we got? Okay, so Romanesco zucchini and yellow summer squash would be really good in that pasta. And again, that you would put in right at the last minute because it would cook down. We also have.
Oh my gosh.
So
those are gorgeous.
Those are nice.
What are you gonna do with those zucchini blossoms?
We have nettles. Yeah. See, Leah knows what's in here. we have this broccoli is from, where's this from? Cricket Road Farm.
Was from,
This is beautiful broccoli.
Spence.
Oh, from Spence Farm. That's beautiful broccoli there. And then some nettles. So nettles are really great for you. I mean, it'd be super hard to find nettles that not at a farmer's market, obviously. But nettles could be cooked down in the sofrito because they like to break down. In fact, one sneaky thing that I do all the time with my kids is I put kale into the sofrito part of the recipe. So I'll chop up kale really fine and cook the kale down after the onions are translucent for maybe 7 minutes or so, and then make like a tomato sauce or something. Add some tomato into that as well, so the kids don't know that they're eating like handfuls of kale in their pasta.
Love it.
So that's like one move that I have. So you can definitely do that with nettles, etc. So cool. What other questions do we have?
There was a question, when you make the orecchiette, like how long could you dry it for, and then how would you store it?
It could dry out 100%, and you can store it indefinitely.
All right.
You are gonna find that dried pasta, like Italian dried pasta, is what it is because they have perfected it over centuries, the drying process. So if you dry your own pasta too much, like typically it becomes kind of brittle and hard to manage. So anytime we make like a semolina water pasta, we typically dry it for a few hours and serve it that day, and then make new batches the next day. Because we don't have the sort of like, the air coming from the Mediterranean and the mountains with it's like their world that they've developed for drying pasta is like very specific to, and you won't get the same results, but you could theoretically dry it out 100%.
That's great. And then is semolina flour the best flour to use instead of like an all-purpose, or are there any other, substitutes?
Well, I mean,
we don't sell it, I don't think. We don't sell semolina.
Semolina is a little tricky to find. You could definitely use an all-purpose flour, and it would work. It would work fine. In fact, I think didn't I make a pasta with all-purpose flour? Yeah, it was pretty good, right?
I think since everyone bought like 50 bags of flour in quarantine, that
See all the flour that we have.
we gotta have something to do with it all.
Yeah, we've been baking bread here every day, so, or at least Leah has.
I tried to make I tried to reproduce my grandmother's focaccia bread pizza, and my grandparents wrote down recipes, but they didn't write down how to do it. They just wrote the ingredients. So I had to really stretch my brain back to remember, and it didn't really come out too well. So
right.
I'll go back to the drawing board. Okay, and then what kind of salt do you prefer to use? You said you use the same one.
We use Diamond brand, Diamond Crystal brand.
Yeah.
No reason. I mean, the Morton's is famous here in Chicago, but like no reason. It's just what I am used to, and
right.
It's literally the feel of it in your fingers.
Yeah.
You have to get used to that.
My pantry project for quarantine was to go through all the salt in the house that you get as gifts, or is like sitting in there. But I do love. I was very hesitant to use Diamond Crystal. I don't know why, but I had a giant box, and I actually do prefer it too because it feels. You have a better feel for it when you're cooking, I think.
Yeah, the granules are like a certain size, and then you do get this like touch thing going on.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, I think and this is last chance, everybody who's participating. I think a few people.
I'm going to look at my computer so I can see the screen. We're good? Okay. And I want to see who's here. Can you switch me? Okay, sorry. How's that?
I think there was one family who was cooking along, but maybe they jumped off.
Okay. Well, can I say hi to my mom and my aunt?
Yeah, you could do whatever you would like.
I mean, they live on the East Coast, so I haven't seen them since before. There's my aunt's waving. Just for the interest, wasn't there a Sofrito recipe that had, I don't know if you can unmute one or both of them, but like.
You know what, we tried to unmute. I think they have to unmute them. So Sarah, can you unmute them?
Yourself.
Okay,
There they are. Hello.
Jackie, give me a chance to talk.
Okay, I just was talking about unmuting myself, that's all.
Okay, I did too.
Wasn't there a Sofrito recipe that had some other stuff in it? No?
I'm the one who asked the question, so I will tell you, I can answer that too. You're thinking of Sofrito, which my father used to love,
Yes.
which is the lung and heart of the cow in the tomato sauce.
Yeah.
But there's I think it's spelled and pronounced differently, but all the Sofrito that I've ever seen in cooking has always had those 3 ingredients. That's why I asked the question. So it was interesting to learn that you can make a Sofrito with things other than carrots and celery.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Sofrito often has carrots and celery in it. Like if you're making a soup or a other kind of sauce, or like when you're making bolognese or something like that.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. Like I'm telling you, right?
Anyways,
Tell 'em.
good to see you all. Are there any other questions? Let's say
About
thank you.
this? Or should I call you about my sourdough bread?
Oh, you want to talk about sourdough now? Huh? How is your sourdough?
I haven't done it yet. I need a container.
Okay, I see. Leah's got ferments everywhere over here. She's got the pre-ferment going on, right? You have your starter, your pre-ferment, and your dough rising right now.
Sounds like a lot of fun over there, Jason and Leah.
Yeah, you want to see her? I'll show you.
Yeah, we do want to see.
I haven't
So-
stretched the dough.
Oh, you haven't stretched the dough yet. But these are our starters. Where are they? Can you see
Oh
them?
my
Those are
God.
looking
See, I don't
good.
have containers like that. I have to buy some.
What can deli containers? I can get you those.
Oh, is that what they're deli containers? Because they were saying you got to get this anchor.
Oh, forget it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's Leah is stretching the dough for. That's
I'm
our.
gonna have to come over and watch this.
Yeah, come over.
Okay.
As soon as the world stops ending, come on over.
I was supposed to be there, remember?
I know.
I know.
Well, anyways, thank you, everybody.
This is so fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Family dynamics at work.
Hey, I like her necklace. I like your necklace. Get the horn.
Good
Oh,
to
yeah.
see everybody. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. Well, next time you visit, we'd love to meet you in person. So let
I'll
us.
be there.
All right.
As soon as the virus goes somewhere else.
Exactly. But Jason, we're really grateful for you to be here tonight with your family, and to Leah for helping, and your kids and your dog. And it was really fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun time, right? Thank you to Mariano's for supporting Pilot Light.
Oh my gosh, it's been so great, and we'd love to do more. So I know I'll talk with the team, but just really quick before we go, where do people go to find? I know we talked about Lula is open for takeout on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, Lula's doing, what we do is we do a weekly dinner Thursday through Sunday. And you can order through Talk, which is the online portal. It's going really well. We also have a walk-up window those days during the day. And then my other restaurant inside the Museum of Contemporary Art is not open because the museum's not open yet. So when that happens, hopefully that'll be soon. We'll see.
All right, awesome. In the meantime, we'll come visit you at the to-go window.
Yeah, please say hi.
All right. Katie, thank you again, and the team at Pilot Light, and Sarah's recording this, so we'll post it. And everyone have a great night. And Jason, we can't thank you enough again. Thanks to you and Leah.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Thank you.